Picture the tee box on the first hole. Your buddies are watching. You swing hard the way you always have, and the ball starts strong, then falls out of the sky 40 yards short of where it flew 10 years ago. You blame your body. I did too. For years, I blamed my age, my back, my slowing hands, but I was wrong, and it cost me thousands of dollars and a decade of yards. Here is the confession. The driver in my bag was stealing between 18 and 26 yards of carry from my slower swing, and I paid full retail price for the privilege. I measured it on a launch monitor at 82 miles an hour of club head speed, the exact range most of us live in after 60. That number changes everything, because the driver that wins for a tour pro swinging 115 is often the worst possible driver for you and me. So today I am ranking every major driver brand from worst to best for the senior swing using real launch data, real spin numbers, and real prices. And I am saving the single most surprising fix for the end, a setting change buried in a fitting report that gave me back 7 yards for free. This applies to the swing you have right now this weekend, not some younger version of you that is never coming back. Let me take you to the range session that broke me. It was a cold Tuesday morning, and a young fitter named Marcus asked me to hit my gamer, the driver I loved, the one with the tour badge and the stiff shaft I bought because a magazine told me it was the best of the year. My carry number came up on the screen, 216 yards. Then he handed me a lightweight driver built for slow tempo, and I hit 238 on my third swing. I stood there feeling sick because I had been playing the wrong club for 8 seasons and calling it my fault. Let me start at the bottom with the brand that hurt me most. And it is going to sting because so many of you carry it out of pure loyalty. The worst category for a senior swing is not a bad company. It is the premium Tour First brand sold to us with the wrong specifications. I am talking about the deep-faced, low-spin, heavy shaft tour models. These clubs are engineering marvels, but they are built to take spin off a swing that already generates too much. When you swing at 110 miles an hour, low spin is your friend because you create your own ball speed in your own launch. When you swing at 80, low spin is a thief. It drops your carry off a cliff. Here is the measured reality. A driver that produces 2,200 revolutions per minute of backspin is glorious for a fast swinger. Put that same head and that same stiff shaft on an 80-mile-an-hour swing, and the ball never climbs. It comes off flat, peaks early, and dives. To carry the ball its maximum distance at 80 miles an hour, the research shows you actually want somewhere between 2,600 and 3,100 revolutions per minute of spin, paired with a launch angle near 14 to 17 degrees. The tour driver gives you 11 degrees and 1,800 spin, and you leave 20 yards in the air you never used. Therefore, the mistake was never my body. The mistake was buying the same badge the pros play and assuming the technology inside was tuned for me. It was not. It was tuned against me, and the heavy shaft made it worse. Which brings me to the next confession, one that cost me even more. The shaft is where the real robbery happened, and almost no senior golfer is told this in the store. I played a shaft that weighed 76 grams because a fitter 15 years ago said heavier meant more control. That advice aged like milk. My swing slowed, but the shaft in my bag never got the memo. Let me give you the numbers that made me angry. When I dropped from a 76-gram stiff shaft to a 50-gram senior flex shaft, my clubhead speed went up by nearly 4 miles an hour with the exact same effort. 4 miles an hour of clubhead speed is worth roughly 8 to 10 yards of carry. I did nothing different. I swung the same. The lighter shaft simply let my slower hands release the club on time instead of dragging the face open and leaking the ball weakly to the right. There is real engineering behind this. A shaft that is too stiff and too heavy for your swing speed will not load and unload in rhythm with your tempo. The face arrives late and open. Independent testing on slower swings has shown that many senior golfers are fighting a shaft their swing cannot bend, and simply matching the shaft weight and flex to an 80-mile-an-hour swing recovers between 6 and 12 yards on its own. That is a free upgrade hiding inside a fitting most men never get. So the tour brands with the wrong shaft sit at the bottom, not because the companies are evil, but because they sold us the wrong build and called it premium. But the next tier up is where it gets sneaky, because these brands are good and their marketing convinces you the newest model is the reason you lost yards. Let me put the big two, the ones you see on every tour telecast, in the middle of my ranking and explain exactly why TaylorMade and Callaway make genuinely excellent driver heads. The faces are fast, the forgiveness is real, and the adjustability is legitimate. If you get fit properly in the right loft with the right light shaft, these drivers will absolutely perform for a senior swing. I have hit recent models at 82 miles an hour and seen ball speeds over 122, which is strong. Here is the problem, and here is the confession. I upgraded my driver from these brands almost every single year, chasing an advertised 10 yards that did not exist. The independent robot testing tells the honest story. From one model year to the next, the real distance gain on a driver face is often between 1 and 3 yards, and sometimes it is 0. The United States Golf Association capped the spring-like effect of the face decades ago at a coefficient of restitution of 0.83. That means the trampoline in the face has a legal ceiling, and every manufacturer has been bumping against that ceiling since the early 2000s. So when the ad says longest driver ever, they are usually talking about a gain smaller than the wind on any given day. I spent roughly $600 a year for years buying 2 yards. Do that math over a decade and you see why I am making this video. The head was never the problem after a certain point. The fit was the problem, and they profit whether you get fit or not. Therefore, the lesson is not to avoid these brands. It is to buy one good, properly fit model and keep it for 4 or 5 years, because the face cannot legally get much hotter. But if these mainstream giants are only a middle-tier answer for seniors, you are probably wondering who actually builds a driver from the ground up for our swing speed. And before I get there, I want to share something that helped me pull all of this together. Everything I just walked you through, the spin numbers, the shaft weights, the loft angles, the launch conditions, I organized it all into an ebook called Drive More, Drive Deeper, Drive Longer. It lays out every brand, every fitting spec, and every free fix in a simple format you can read once and use every time you step on the course. If you want the complete guide in one place, the link is in the description below. Now, with that in mind, let me move up to the brands that quietly outperform for slower swings, the ones the tour telecasts never show you. Ping belongs high on this list, and here is why. Ping has been obsessed with one number longer than anyone else in the industry, and that number is moment of inertia, the resistance of the club head to twisting on an off-center hit. For a senior golfer who does not strike the center every time, and none of us do, that number is worth more than raw ball speed. The governing bodies set the maximum moment of inertia for a driver at 10,000 grams centimeter squared, plus a small tolerance. Ping has been pushing right up against that ceiling. When your driver resists twisting, your mishits, the ones off the heel and toe, hold their ball speed in their direction. Independent testing has shown that a high forgiveness driver can save a slower swinger between 7 and 14 yards on off-center strikes compared to a low forgiveness tour head. That is not a marketing yard. That is a real yard you earn on the toe strike on the 12th hole when you are tired. So Ping ranks high because they built for the miss, and seniors miss more than we admit. But there is a category of brand built even more specifically for us, a category most American golfers walk right past in the shop because the name is not on television, and skipping it may be the most expensive habit in this entire video. Let me talk about the lightweight specialists, and this is where my ranking turns hard toward the winners. There is a brand called XXIO, spelled like it sounds impossible to say, and there is Tour Edge, and there is the senior-focused Hanma. These companies do one thing the giants refuse to prioritize. They build the entire club, head and shaft and grip, to be dramatically lighter so a slower swing can move it faster. Here is the number that stopped me cold. A typical mainstream driver with a stock setup weighs around 310 grams total. A dedicated senior-focused driver like an XXIO can come in near 270 to 280 grams. That is 30 to 40 grams lighter in your hands. On a slow to moderate swing, that weight reduction has been measured to add between 3 and 6 miles an hour of clubhead speed. And remember, every mile an hour is worth roughly 2 to 2.5 yards of carry. Do that math and you find 10 yards or more from weight alone before you even talk about the face. The counterweighting in these drivers is the hidden genius. They place a small weight up in the grip end, which stabilizes the club and lets you feel the head without swinging harder. I was skeptical. I thought lightweight meant flimsy and uncontrollable. Then I hit one and my dispersion actually tightened because I stopped overswinging to force speed I no longer had. The club did the work, my body could not. The catch, and I will always give you the catch, is price. These specialist drivers can run from $500 to well over $800, and the Hanma premium lines climb higher. That stings. But compare it to buying a mainstream driver every single year for 2 yards, and the lightweight specialist you keep for 5 years is the better value by a wide margin. I wasted more money chasing annual upgrades than one good senior driver would have cost me twice over. Therefore, if you swing under about 85 miles an hour, these lightweight specialists deserve a hit before you spend a dime on a tour brand. But I promised you a section for the man who already owns his driver and is not about to spend $500, and I mean it, because the next part might be the most valuable minutes in this video for you. Let me speak directly to you. If you are sitting there thinking you cannot replace your whole bag and you do not want to, I was there. Here is what you can do this weekend with the driver you already own, and it costs almost nothing. First, check your loft and add more of it. This is the change that shocks people. Most senior golfers are playing a driver with 9 or 10.5 degrees of loft because that is what felt manly and low and penetrating 20 years ago. Your slower swing needs more loft to carry the ball. If your driver has an adjustable hosel, and most made in the last 12 years do, turn it up. Go from 9.5 to 11 or from 10.5 to 12. Robot testing at slower swing speeds consistently shows that adding 2 degrees of loft can add carry, not reduce it, because you finally launched the ball high enough to use the air. I gained real yards turning a little wrench in my garage. Second, move the ball forward in your stance and tee it higher. You want to catch the ball on the upswing, hitting up on it by a few degrees. A senior golfer who hits down on the driver bleeds, spin, and loses launch. Just teeing the ball so that half of it sits above the crown at address encourages an upward strike. That single adjustment has been measured to add several yards of carry with zero swing change and $0 spent. Third, and this one is nearly free, get a lighter grip and a lighter shaft if you can swing an aftermarket shaft for around $100 installed. That is a fraction of a new driver, and as I told you, the shaft is where the yards hide. If a full new driver is off the table, a lighter shaft in your current head is the highest return $100 in golf for a senior swing. So even if you never buy another club, you can reclaim distance from the gear already in your bag. But if you are ready to know which single brand and which single overlooked spec gave me the biggest jump of all, the one buried in a fitting report I almost threw away, this is the part I made the whole video for. Let me build to the brands I now rank at the very top, and then the secret finale. At the top of my ranking for the senior golfers sit the driver makers who combine high forgiveness, high launch, and a properly light shaft as the standard build, not as an afterthought. Ping earns its place for forgiveness. The lightweight specialists like XXIO and Tour Edge earn their place for speed from weight. And I have to give real credit to Cleveland and to Wilson, two brands seniors overlook constantly because they build genuinely high launch, forgiving drivers at prices often $200 below the tour brands. A brand does not have to be expensive to be right for you. In fact, the most expensive driver in the shop is frequently the worst one for a slow swing because it is the tour model built to kill spin you cannot spare. But here is the finale, the fix that gave me backyards for free, and it is not a brand at all. It is a number on your fitting report that almost every senior golfer ignores and that most fitters never even explain. It is called Spin Loft, and understanding it changed my game more than any club I ever bought. Let me tell you how I found it. When Marcus handed me that fitting report on the cold Tuesday, there was a column of numbers I had always skipped past to get to the carry distance. But this time he pointed at my spin rate, and mine was low, way too low for my speed, only about 1,700 revolutions per minute. He explained that my low spin tour driver combined with my too low loft and my slightly downward strike was creating a knuckleball that fell out of the air. My ball was not spinning enough to stay aloft. I had spent years believing low spin was always good because that is what every advertisement had drilled into me for 20 years. Here is the buried truth. For a swing speed around 80 miles an hour, the optimal launch conditions are not what the pros use. The research on slower swings points to a launch angle in the mid-teens, around 15 to 17 degrees, paired with a backspin rate near 2,600 to 3,000 revolutions per minute. The pros want 11 degrees and 1,800 spin because they have the ball speed to carry it. You and I do not. We need the ball to climb and float and hang using the air as a ramp. When I raised my loft, teed it higher, and moved to a lighter shaft, my spin climbed from 1,700 to about 2,700. My launch rose to 15 degrees, and my carry jumped from 216 to 238 yards, 22 yards, from matching my launch conditions to my actual swing speed. Not from buying speed my body could not make. That is the redemption. For 8 years, I chased the pros down to low spin and low loft and paid premium prices to do it, and every one of those choices was actively costing me the distance I was so desperate to keep. The marketing had it exactly backward for my swing, and I never questioned it because the badge looked serious and the shaft felt stiff and important in my hands. The truth was buried under a decade of ads telling me lower and longer were the same thing. For a slow swing, they are opposites. So here is what I want you to do this weekend, and it is simple enough for anyone. Find a launch monitor at a fitting or even a simulator bay at your local course and look at two numbers only, your launch angle and your spin rate. If your launch is under 12 degrees and your spin is under 2,000, you are leaving double-digit yards in the sky, guaranteed. Add loft, tee it higher, lighten the shaft, and watch your carry climb without swinging one bit harder. That is the number the industry never put on the front of the box. Let me leave you with the full ranking, clean and simple, so you know exactly where to spend and where to walk away. At the bottom, the premium tour models with low spin, low loft, and heavy stiff shafts. They are magnificent clubs built for a swing you no longer have, and they will quietly rob you of 20 yards while charging you the most money in the shop. In the middle, the mainstream giants, excellent heads that will perform beautifully if and only if you get fit into high loft and a light shaft, but a waste of your money if you upgrade every year chasing 2 yards that the legal face limit says cannot exist. Near the top, Ping for its forgiveness that saves your mishits, and the value brands like Cleveland and Wilson that deliver high launch without the premium sting. And at the very top for the true senior swing, the lightweight specialists like XXIO and Tour Edge that build speed into the club so your body does not have to. But above every brand sits the free fix. The launch and spin numbers match to the swing you actually own today. No logo can outperform correct launch conditions. I learned that the hard way. One cold Tuesday, staring at a screen and realizing I had blamed my body for a mistake that lived in my gear the entire time. You just took back the 20 yards the industry has been quietly selling back to you, one overpriced driver at a time, and you did not have to swing any harder to get them. You are not an old golfer losing distance. You are a smart golfer who finally refuses to pay premium prices for specs built against your swing. That is a different kind of player. and it is the kind that shoots lower scores while spending less money. So tell me in the comments, what driver is in your bag right now and what is its loft? Because I read every one of these and I will tell you honestly whether you are playing a club that fits your swing or one that is stealing your yards. If your loft is under 10.5 degrees and you are over 60, type that number below and let me warn you before your next round. Comment now while you are thinking about it, because the man who writes it down is the man who actually fixes it. And if you want the full breakdown, every brand, every launch number, every fitting spec laid out simply, the complete guide is in the ebook linked below. Subscribe and stand with the senior golfers who refuse to overpay and refuse to lose yards quietly, because there are more of us than the marketing departments want to admit. Next time, I am confessing the truth about golf balls and how the premium ball I played for years was spinning up my slower swing and costing me distance on every single tee shot, when a ball costing half as much flew straighter and longer for a swing like mine. You will not believe the number on that one. I did not either until I measured it. I'm still here with you, and there's more. This was just the overview. The deeper version, the full fitting for your senior swing, waits inside the Senior Fairway Club. That's where you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself, a real person, not a machine. And you won't be alone. You'll belong with senior golfers just like you. Just point your phone at the code on screen, cancel anytime, one click. If this helped you find the right driver, why not subscribe and stay with me? I have plenty more here to help you play better and enjoy your golf for years to come.